Welcome to the wildly wonderful and whimsical, colorful world of tularosa flowers. We're proud to have been named one of North America's top 50 wedding floral designers by Florist Review magazine. I'm Dawn Weisberg, owner and creative director of Tularosa Flowers. Our work has been described as wildly colorful and whimsical, a wild frolic through a flower wonderland. And that is how I like to think of our work. We definitely have a maximalist approach when it comes to floral and event design. We love to layer texture, color, and pattern all together to create something that is multi-leveled, interesting, and very personal to each of our couples. We're so pleased to have been chosen as one of Mayesh's design stars this year. Before we get into our design today, I wanted to talk a little bit about all of these incredible flowers and beautiful product that we have from Mayesh. So one of the things that I think is really important and which has really helped me as a designer is I like to use the same colors with different types of flowers. So take for instance this beautiful country blues garden rose, which has this amazing, roughly kind of garden look to it. So country blues is this beautiful kind of pinky mauve color. And then one of my absolute favorite spray roses is this one called Blue Moon. And Blue Moon, if you look at it, has almost an exact color tone of country blues. So you can have this be a big focal point and then bring in the color in a different way into another part of the design to create this kind of cohesion with the look. So I'll do that with a lot of different ones. Here I've got this amazing, beautiful, soft peach color, which is Sahara Expression as a single rose, but Sahara Expression also comes as a spray rose. So using both of these gives you the same color, but you can move it into your design in a different way. I'm also going to bring in colors that kind of bridge those colors in different ways. So we've got the deeper tones of the mauve. We're going to bring in some beautiful Clematis using both the flower and the greens as part of our greenery, as well as these incredible Ranunculus. This color is so beautiful. And these kind of are a bridge going into our hybrid Delphiniums in the light lavender, which are such a beautiful vertical flower. We're also going to bring that color bridge into our greenery and filler. This is a really amazing one grown locally, and it is a type of Boronia, which I'd actually never seen before. It almost has a lilac look to it, which if lilac is not in season or not in your budget, then this Boronia is a really amazing one for you to use. Another rose that we're using today is also like the Sahara Sensation in that it comes as both a single and as a spray, and that is Mocha, which in my opinion is absolutely the perfect nude blush rose. It doesn't have as much of the pink in it. It is actually like a skin tone, and it's just beautiful and elegant and a beautiful kind of transitional color between our deeper mauves and getting into then our peaches in these unbelievable Ranunculus. I have actually never seen Ranunculus with this kind of height and size to them, and they are just spectacular. We're also using in that kind of peachy tone these beautifully ruffled Lisianthus as well. Then in our greens, we're going to get into some sword ferns to give it a very light and airy look. Additionally, we're mostly using springeri, which is a fantastic greenery to use. It really has a long vase life. It actually will hold up fairly well out of water. The only thing to be aware of is most of the really fluffy looking greens have hidden thorns, so you're going to want to wear gloves when you're using springeri. Some of the other greens and fillers that we're going to be using for this are this amazing local Pieris japonica, which also can be used sometimes if somebody's wanting lily of the valley and they don't have the budget for it. or it's not in season, this can often give that kind of a feeling in a bouquet, as well as being a beautiful filler. We're also going to use this beautiful explosion grass, which is aptly named, as you can see. This adds a really incredible, light, airy, whimsical, almost fairy-like feeling to things. It can give you that meadow feel that you might want to get if you're going for a really naturalistic flowers growing out of the ground in an aisle, something like that. It really softens everything and adds just a little bit of interest to your arrangements. Another filler we're using is this beautiful snowball viburnum. It's coming out in season right now, early spring. It is so pretty. It's very light and airy, and it has greenery that has a really nice kind of mid to light color green, so it's not a very dark green, which adds a beautiful note to things. Some of the other flowers that we're using, again, very seasonal, so it's giving you real seasonal interest to the design. This is one of my absolute favorites. This is acacia. It has these amazing little yellow balls on it, and it comes in a whole different variety. There's probably hundreds of different kinds of acacias, and through the season of acacia, which is quite short, some will start early and some go later. This particular one is a knife blade acacia. We're also going to be using this smilax back here. This is not the large wild smilax, but this one is called table smilax. It has the same quality of being good out of water for a significant amount of time. So you can use it on a table. You could use it to wrap a leash if you're doing a dog collar for a wedding, which is something we've done quite a few times. Another filler flower we're going to be using is this beautiful Genestra. It's also a late winter, early spring filler. It has an incredible scent. It's really wonderful, and it's another one that gives that very light and airy, whimsical look to your designs. We're also going to incorporate this beautiful blooming jasmine vine, another one with incredible scent. We've got some lovely light pink larkspur here. Again, on the seasonal side of things, we're using forsythia branches. Then one of the stars of the show for this installation is going to be these incredible Moab roses. These are a newer introduction. They are huge roses. They open like a dream, and they just have this incredible light terracotta color that is it's a remarkable rose. I highly recommend this one, as well as it being quite a sturdy rose for event work. It just has the most beautiful open form to it. Another seasonal flower that I'm extremely fond of are these beautiful poppies. These in particular are of an outrageous size that I don't know that I've seen ones quite as beautiful as these that Mayesh provided. Generally, they're going to come in a variety of colors, so you don't really know exactly what you're getting, but it'll always be in this color range, and usually there's a yellow as well. And it can go from deep orange to a kind of coral, there's a peach, a brighter yellow, and then this beautiful kind of ombre white. It's just, they're amazing flowers. Some of the other focal flowers that we're going to be using that are really special are these incredible alliums. And then one of my personal favorites of all time are the amazing Gloriosa lilies. They are a premium flower, but they are well worth it to add incredible whimsy. Every time we use it in a design, we're asked what flower it is. People just can't stop talking about it. And they come actually in a variety of different colors. It's my first time using the yellow. It is such a beautiful sunny gold yellow, but also there's an incredible red with a yellow stripe. It even comes in a green, and there's a light pink as well. So I highly recommend the Gloriosa lilies. Hi guys, I hope you liked that introduction of all the incredible product that we're going to be using from Mayesh today. And now I want to move on to showing you the mechanics that we'll be using for this. For today, we're actually going to be doing a staircase installation. So let's talk about the mechanics for the staircase installation. What I decided to use for this one is a ceramic dish. It has a very low profile. And what we've done is it came white. We went ahead and spray painted it green so that it would be able to blend in better with our greenery. And then inside we've glued in 2 flower frogs and chicken wire and tape. Now, you want the container to be fairly weighty because we're going to have some really tall things that are coming out of it. And particularly if it was going to be outside, it needs to have some weight so that the whole thing doesn't blow over. For some of our taller things, we're going to be using these taller dishes. And again, we've just put chicken wire inside. So you're going to want to fill the container with water. And then for this installation, we're using mostly Springeri, which is this very airy and drapey green that does have thorns. So again, you want to be careful not to impale yourself on the little thorns. And we're basically just trying to cover the base, but in a very light and airy way. With Springeri, when you get a really long piece like this, you can clip it in different spots so that you can have a shorter piece to cover and then also a longer piece that can come in front. So then directly in to my flower frog, I'm going to put these incredible Ranunculus, which I've never seen this long. Now, if you want your flower to be totally upright, you're just going to cut it flat like this and put it in. If instead you wanted your flower or branch, whatever it might be, to be at an angle, then you would actually clip your stem at an angle, the direction that you want it to be, and then press it firmly into your flower frog until you feel it gripping. These are going to be very kind of light, airy, naturalistic looking installations that we're going to put up and down the stairs. And so I always like to have at least 3 of one variety and have them all on different planes. I think this gives a more natural look because I always like for the flowers to look like they're growing in the arrangement. Another thing that you want to take into consideration is your colors. So for this particular arrangement, I want it to look like, you know, it's a cluster of flowers in a perennial flower border, that kind of a look. Now I'm going to use flowers that are close in color to my focal flower, which is this amazing Ranuncula. I'm using butterfly Ranunculus here to do that. So the yellow is going to complement the peach. If I wanted it to be a more high contrast design, then I would use a color that was not as close in the color wheel to create more contrast to the flowers. And I do find that this low dish is good for kind of our very light and delicate flowers. Whereas if we're going to start to get into something like a hybrid Delphinium, we're going to want to have a little bit of height in the container to support that larger stem. So in that case, we're going to go into one of these taller vessels. And as I work through the design, I really am thinking about it like a flower garden. And in a garden, in addition to your focal plant, you're always going to have some grasses or, you know, other flowers kind of poking up. I mean, it's very rare in nature that you're getting just one kind of flower altogether with nothing else growing through it. We're also going to add some ferns in, again, to give it that very naturalistic feeling. And I do love to kind of cluster like things together, again, to give it that very natural look. This type of thing, I definitely recommend that you're doing this on site, in situ, where you're going to be using the flowers so that you can do it in the most natural way. Something like an aisle, that we definitely prepare beforehand, at the very least greening everything so that it's the speed that you can have, you know, not having to do 30 aisle pieces on a wedding day. Okay, so next we're going to work on this taller piece where I said we need to have some taller structure that we're using. I always like to go in with my tallest pieces first because that kind of sets the scale of what I'm working on, and then fill in with something at a different height. Always being aware of what your different height level is so that nothing is at the same plane. So when I look at this, these actually, as I'm looking at it, look too close in height. So I'm going to take this one out and go ahead and clip it lower. One of the things that I always tell my team is high highs and low lows. so that there's interest and airiness in the design that you're doing. And then for this, I'm going to go in with my Genestra, which is just so beautiful and drapey and has such an airy look to it. Another thing to consider when you are trying to be more sustainable in your business is also, what your team, what their skill level is with sustainable techniques as well. Because when we talk about sustainability, there is this sustainability of the products that we're using, but there's also the sustainability of your business. And that's not something that everybody talks about that much. But in order for your business to be sustainable, you need to be making a profit. All of those things come into play, particularly in event work where you are often dealing with very large crews. It's not uncommon for us to have 10 people on a team working for an entire week to prep a wedding and then there on the install day. Some of the other mechanics I want to talk to you about are how we're actually going to build the installation on the staircase. So the ones I was showing you first are going to be our ground pieces that are going to go up the level of the stairs. But on the banister itself, rather than use like a foam cage or something like that, for this, we're going to go ahead and use some of these options that we can fill with water. These are traditionally used for grave sites, for flowers, but these are great to work with on a banister. If we were going to do some really tall branches or things like that, we could go ahead and use mâchés, which are biodegradable. And the term mâché comes from what they're made out of, which is paper mache. They do come in a variety of sizes, although I have found that the green is getting harder to find. Mostly you're just seeing them in white these days. You can also use these types of things that are usually for a flower shop to display flowers. This is another great one. It's going to give you more depth to secure your branches, and then you could have a ground piece that covers in front of it. And this also you can fill with chicken wire so that you have something to grip into for your branches. The other thing you want to take into consideration when you're working at a venue is, you never want to damage anything that you're working on or attaching an installation to. So I like to use this great non-slip mat. It comes by the roll. I get it at Home Depot. And we use it actually on all of our carts and shelves for transportation, but it also is a great thing if you are using foam to back a cage with on a pergola or something so that it doesn't slip, and then also to protect whatever you're putting stuff onto. So for instance, here, we could put that here. It's gonna help it to not slip, and then we can put our cone against it, and then just zip tie right around it to create an area where we can put more flowers that maybe don't have the height of, say, the delphiniums or other vertical flowers. Our inspiration for this installation is Botticelli's Primavera, which means springtime in Italian. And you can see we've chosen the absolute best of spring's flowers to create this design. It's also the idea of life reawakening in spring and this just kaleidoscope of color that reminds us that summer's coming. We're throwing off the cloak of winter and getting back into life, springing into being. I still can't get over these ranunculus from Mayesh, you guys. I have never seen a ranuncula with this kind of stem length and the size of these heads. They're so fluffy, it's almost like a peony. It's absolutely amazing. And this peach color is spectacular. These Moabs open really beautifully on their own, but if you want to open them even more, I do like to twirl a rose like this. Just give it a little twirl between your hands. This opens it in a way that's a little bit more natural than when you reflex the rose. But you can also go ahead and reflex it too if you want it to really have an open look. And with the reflexing, I like to put my thumb into the center of the petal and fold it gently back. And rather than fold it completely straight, I prefer to kind of fold the petals under. This gives it a really sculptural look. And it looks a little bit more natural than when it's completely flattened out when it's reflexed. it adds a lot of dimension to each petal. And then just like that, it's nice and reflexed and open. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my design process at Tularosa. A lot of times I've heard our couples say, "How did you do that? You totally got inside of my head. You knew better than I knew what I wanted." I think this has a lot to do with my background. Before becoming a floral and event designer, I was actually a costume designer for film and television for 20 years. And one of the things that I used to do as a costume designer was to analyze a character and find a way to portray their personality in their clothing. Clothing gives us a lot of visual clues that we all understand about who a person is, what they do even for a living, where they grew up sometimes. And so as we're in the design process with our couples, I ask them a series of questions to understand more about who they are. And then I try to paint that portrait of who they are with flowers now instead of with clothing. I don't know about you guys, but do you give the flowers gentle words of encouragement while you're working? Because that's what I like to do. I mean, maybe I'm a little too flower fairy-y, but I find I'm so inspired by the beautiful flowers. I ask them to do their best and shine brightest for the wedding day. It's also really important, you guys, to cover your mechanics. I can promise you that the photographer will always find the spot that you didn't cover. The back of your arch needs to be beautiful. Every side needs to be covered. It's kind of what elevates it from basic to the luxury level, is making sure that every side of your installations are beautiful. Because for sure, they're gonna be covering every side. And now we have drones too. So even the tops need to be pretty. Thank you so much for joining us today with Tularosa Flowers. It's been a joy to create this installation for you guys, and I hope there were some helpful tidbits in there to help you in your own design path. I want to say thank you to Mayesh for providing all of these absolutely incredible flowers for us to work with, and to my design partners, West Coast Weddings, Lucy Munoz, Cavalier Bars and Backdrops, Bustin' Out Bouquets, Catalog Atelier, Adore Folklore, Casey Whitcamp, and Nuage Linens.